Hi everybody, my name's Andrea and I'm the Curator of Education here for the Town of Wytheville Department of Museums. And this is the first video of our virtual learning series. We've been working on preparing some of these videos so that all of you who are at home right now can still have a chance to do some educational programs about our local history and maybe even get a little visit to some of our museums that are closed right now. We wanted to start here at the Thomas J. Boyd Museum here in Wytheville because inside we have an exhibit called The Summer of Polio, and it talks about the polio epidemic that hit the town of Wytheville in 1950. We think that there are some pretty interesting comparisons that we can make to what happened then to what's going on in our world today. And of course, what's going on in our world today is that a lot of places are going through some pretty drastic measures to try and contain a virus that we really don't know much about. Social distancing has become a hashtag, but it's also become a way of life for millions of people around the world. This is pretty much a new story for most of us. We've never gone through anything like this before. But if you look back on history, you'll see that quarantine and isolation really have played their parts over the years. Here in Wytheville, a small town in Southwest Virginia, we have the unusual experience of living through this story again. We wanted to share some of that story with you today by taking you through our exhibit here at the Boyd Museum. And as we go through, we'll also be introducing the names of some of the people who lived through that difficult summer and sharing with you their words and their firsthand experiences. If there are any students who are watching today, we want to invite you to look at some of the materials that we've created and put on our website. These are things that you can download, and these are just a couple of sheets that we've made so that you can follow along with the tour and maybe make some comparisons. Think about how the outbreak of 1950 is the same and different from what it is today with the coronavirus. If you don't want to download these, you're also welcome to make your own versions. So let's go ahead and get started. Wytheville was a very busy town in the summer of 1950, and you'll see that in a lot of the pictures as we go through the exhibit here. Even before Interstates 77 and 81 were built that go through our town today, it was a place that tourists traveled through, and they often stopped. They stayed at our local hotels, they came and did business at our local companies, and there were so many people that would come to Wytheville that often finding a parking spot was really difficult. People came to town to eat, to see movies, do errands, and gather together just to spend time with one another. Now in 1950, before the outbreak hit, summer had just begun. So kids all around Wytheville and Wythe County were just beginning their days of freedom. Trips to the community pool, neighborhood games, riding bikes, baseball, and spending lots of time with their friends. Now one of the biggest draws in Wytheville was its minor league baseball team, the Statesmen. Their field was downtown at what is now Withers Park, and the team consistently drew crowds of 500 to 800 fans, sometimes even 1,000. But in June of 1950, the baseball team took the first blow of what would eventually become the polio epidemic in Wytheville. John Sakafico, the 20-month-old son of the Statesman's second baseman, was diagnosed with polio. And over the course of the summer, as cases climbed near 200, the baseball team took a big hit. Once quarantines and isolation factors took place, the team was no longer able to draw a crowd, and it had to end its season early. In 1950, the main goal was to protect the children of Wytheville. Polio affected far more children than adults, unlike today with the coronavirus, where we see that affecting a lot more senior citizens and people with weaker immune systems. Where the polio virus came from and how it was passed on were unknown at the time. Advisories given to citizens weren't unlike the advisories that we see today about hand washing and staying away from crowds. One of the best things that people could do then was to stay home and quarantine themselves so that they could reduce and hopefully end the spread of the virus. Mrs. John Lester Sr. remembered,
"We didn't leave our yard the whole summer."
Isolation became a reality for the kids of Wytheville that summer. They stayed home. They played with their siblings and parents, but never their neighbors or friends. They weren't seen anywhere in or around the town of Wytheville. And this is what led to the phrase, "the summer without children." With kids being stuck at home, different groups and organizations around town banded together to provide ways to keep kids entertained and to help parents from going crazy. Jean Kitts-Lester said of the time,
"The radio was our main contact to the outside world."
the new radio station in Wytheville, WYVE, started to air special programs like story times, trivia games, and even craft projects and ideas that kids could follow along at home. The station also created an on-air game called Reco, which was like bingo, but it used music records instead of numbers. Then the newspaper caught on, and it created a print version of Reco. There was a form that kids could cut out of the paper 6 days a week, and they would fill in their answers and even write the answer to a little essay question, send it back into the newspaper, and wait to see if they were chosen as a winner. Kids were making a point to listen to these programs every day and look in the newspaper to play Reco every day because it really gave them something to look forward to. They could even maybe win a prize, many of which were donated by local businesses. And it was also really exciting for them to listen to the radio to see if their name would be broadcast as a winner. Now, at the time, Wytheville had only one small medical clinic, and it couldn't handle the number of patients who needed treatment. Many people had to be transported to hospitals in Roanoke and Richmond, and local funeral homes stepped in to help provide transportation. The drivers of these makeshift ambulances were not welcome to stop at any town along the way because people were afraid of the virus spreading to new places. The economic impact of all of this was very visible. The town that had so recently been a bustling center of commerce and entertainment was now a ghost town. Rebecca Huddle said,
"I remember that coming into town. It was so deserted, you could have any parking place you wanted."
people were encouraged to do their business as quickly as possible and only to do things that were absolutely necessary. Grocery stores didn't want too many people shopping at the same time, so they asked customers to call in their orders and park outside while employees delivered the items to their car. Travelers were asked not to stop in Wytheville because of the virus. Signs like this one were put up outside of town asking that visitors plan to stop on their next trip through Wytheville, but not that summer of 1950. This, of course, hurt many businesses downtown, but the people of Wytheville took it in stride as best they could. Jean Kitts-Lester remembered,
"We knew that strangers that came through were our livelihood. They bought things and stayed at our hotels. We didn't want them to stay that summer, and we put their benefit over our pocketbooks."
Now, most of our tour today has focused on the community's response to the virus, but one of the hallmarks of this exhibit is an iron lung from the time period. This is a machine that assisted polio victims with their breathing when the virus had made it impossible for them to breathe on their own. This device extended and saved many, many lives. When the museums reopen, we hope that you'll take the chance to come see the iron lung and our entire exhibit. By the end of the summer of 1950, the polio epidemic in Wytheville had been contained, and it was time for everybody to take a sigh of relief. New cases slowed down and then stopped showing up altogether. It wouldn't be for another 4 years that a vaccination for polio would be available in the United States, and today the polio virus has almost been erased worldwide. But the story remains of Wytheville, a small town and a community that truly came together and practiced drastic, effective measures to stop the spread of a virus. In April of 1951, the Virginia Health Bulletin published an editorial about what had happened in Wytheville the previous summer. And I wanted to end our tour today with a quote from that bulletin. "The story of Wythe County is a heroic story, as well as a tragic one. It is the story of a united people that banded themselves together to suffer, endure, and fight an unseen, mysterious enemy, polio. It was a valiant fight. Seldom has there been such close cooperation between so many different agencies to realize a common goal. Thank you so much for joining us on our tour today of this exhibit at the Boyd Museum. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that it gave you a few things to think about in terms of what we're facing today. And we also hope that you'll join us as we post some more of our virtual learning activities over the next few weeks. Thank you.